Learning outcomes. Upon completion, you should be able to gain a general understanding of the NERC-CIP standards CIP-010-3 on configuration change management and vulnerability assessment, and CIP-011-2 on information protection. Recognize the requirements of each of the two NERC-CIP standards, CIP-010-3 and CIP-011-2.
CIP 10-3 Configuration Change Management and Vulnerability Assessments. Purpose: to prevent and detect unauthorized changes to BES cyber systems by specifying configuration, change management, and vulnerability assessment requirements in support of protecting BES cyber systems from compromise that could lead to misoperation or instability in the bulk electric systems. CIP 10-3 Configuration Change Management Vulnerability Assessment. Applicability: Reliability Coordinator, Balancing Authority, Interchange Authority or Coordinator, Transmission Owner and Operator, Generation Owner or Operator, Distribution Provider that owns any of the following facilities, systems, and equipment for BES protection and/or restoration. CIP 10-3 Configuration Change Management Vulnerability Assessments. Applicability continued. Load shedding programs, UFLS or UVLS that is subject to NERC or regional reliability standards. Automatically sheds load of 300 megawatts or more under common control without human initiation. Remedial action scheme or a transmission protection system that is subject to NERC or regional reliability standards. Cranking paths and elements meeting the initial switching requirements from a black start resource up to and including the first interconnection point of the starting station service of the next generation units to be started. CIP 10-3 Config Change Management Vulnerability Assessments. Requirements: an entity shall implement a documented process that includes each of the following requirements: a baseline configuration individually or by group to include operating systems or firmware where no operating systems exists, a commercially available or open source application software intentionally installed, any custom software installed, any logical network accessible ports, any security patches applied, authorize and document changes that deviate from the baseline configuration. Updates to documentation shall be made within 30 days of completing the change. CIP 10-3 Config Change Management Vulnerability Assessment. Requirements: prior to the change, determine cybersecurity controls that could be impacted. Following the change, verify that cybersecurity controls are not adversely affected and document the results. For each change, prior to implementation, test the change in a test or production environment, minimizing adverse effects, and document the results. Verify the identity of the software source. Verify the integrity of the software obtained from the software source. CIP 10-3 Config Change Management Vulnerability Assessment. Requirements continued. When implementing a documented process, each entity shall monitor at least once every 35 calendar days for baseline configuration changes and document and investigate detected unauthorized changes. Vulnerability assessments shall be conducted on each documented process. Paper or active vulnerability assessments shall be conducted at least once every 15 months. At least once every 36 months, conduct an active vulnerability assessment in a test or production environment that minimizes adverse effects and document the test results. Prior to adding a cyber asset to a production environment, perform an active vulnerability assessment except for CIP exceptional circumstances or a same type cyber asset that models an existing baseline configuration of the previous or other existing cyber asset. CIP 10-3 Config Change Management Vulnerability Assessments. Requirements: document the assessment results conducted in the action plan to remediate or mitigate vulnerabilities as identified to include the planned date of completing the action plan and the execution status of any action items. For any high or medium impact BES cyber systems and protected cyber assets, implement except under CIP exceptional circumstances a documented plan for transient cyber assets and removable media, also known as USB sticks. CIP 011-2 Cybersecurity Information Protection. Purpose: to prevent unauthorized access to BES cyber system information by specifying information protection requirements in support of protecting BES cyber systems against compromises that could lead to misoperation or instability in the bulk electric system. CIP 11-2 Cybersecurity Information Protection. Applicability: Reliability Coordinator, balancing authority, interchange authority or coordinator, transmission owner or operator, generation owner or operator, distribution provider that owns one or more of the following facilities, systems, and equipment for the protection or restoration of the BES. CIP 11-2, Cybersecurity Information Protection. Distribution providers that own any of the following facilities, systems, and equipment for BES protection or restoration. Load shed programs, UFLS or UVLS that is subject to NERC or regional reliability standards, and automatically sheds load of 300 megawatts or more under common control without human initiation. Remedial action scheme or a transmission protection system that is subject to NERC or regional reliability standards. Cranking path and elements meeting the initial switching requirements from a black start resource up to and including the first interconnection point of the starting station service of the next generation units to be started. CIP 11-2, Cybersecurity Information Protection. Requirements. An entity shall implement a documented information protection program that includes methods to identify information meeting the definition of BES cyber system and procedures for protecting and securely handling BES cyber system information, including storage, transit, and use. CIP 11-2, Cybersecurity Information Protection. Requirements continued. Each entity shall implement a documented processes that includes, prior to releasing for reuse any BES cyber system information, action shall be taken to prevent any unauthorized retrieval of BES cyber system information from the cyber asset data storage media. Prior to disposing of BES cyber system information, action shall be taken to prevent any unauthorized retrieval of information from the cyber asset or to destroy the data storage media.